Hey, J-Bone Nation! Shaming of Jay. He's not a dopey dumb bitch. He gets laid. The court jester, the court DJ. It's time to dive into the case. To the
What is up, everybody? What's up, Bob?
What is up, my brother? What is up? I am super excited about this, man.
Same, man. You know, I was just thinking about this. Like, words matter, and as an attorney who's trying, and as a jury, words matter, right? But I mean, I wish I clipped it because Unetti even said something yesterday to Brian Higgins. He was like, "You said that in the passive." I forget what his wording was, but he was pointing out that the way he said it was not like he was being evasive. So like that's why this is going to be really good, right? I mean, as an attorney, you must have been thinking about that all the time, right?
God, dude, like literally the practice of law is parsing words, word by word. Like if you break it down from just the bare bones of the practice of law, it starts, especially in the criminal arena. I mean, you're parsing statutes like word by word. Every word in a criminal statute matters. Like when you go into law school, they teach you how to read a statute and what applies to what within that statute itself. So words are everything in the law. Words are interpretation in the law. And I'm always saying interpretation is everything. That is the practice of law. You're literally having two different people interpreting the exact same thing in two different ways and going into a court of law and arguing about it and having a judge say, I agree with that person or I agree with that person. It's the whole practice. So I love what Jack does. It's fascinating to me. Like you got me sucked in to that Avery thing yesterday. I was like weeping off, like off camera. Like when you stopped it, I'm like, wow, man, Jay really pulled it away from me. It was like a baby who had a cookie and was really enjoying it. And then
it was a teaser, Bob. It was a teaser for our wonderful guest who is Jack from A Never a Truer Word. And let me just give you a little breakdown before I bring him on. I mean, I had him on. For folks who don't know, what we do at the lives is I had Jack on. We watched Wendy Adelson, a couple of her things, and Jack just sends me the timestamps, and then he analyzes what they say. And I'm telling you right now, there's going to be moments during this live where you're like, "Holy shit, I never thought of that."
It's amazing.
It's so good. So Jack runs the Never a Truer Word channel where he looks at statements from people in the news and analyzes their word choices to uncover deception and reveal the truth. Away from the channel, Jack has worked with law enforcement, private investigators, journalists, cold case teams, and corporate HR departments to give insight into the words used by persons of interest. You can find him at neveratruerword.com, and our mods will be sharing the link. So I checked, guys. Jack was at like 4.3-ish or something. I want him to be at least 4.5. I want to make sure everyone is subbing to him. So without any further ado, here is Jack. How you doing, Jack?
I'm good, thank you. How are you guys?
Welcome, wonderful. Brother. Welcome. We are excellent.
Good.
Yeah, and Jay, I refer to Jack privately as the human lie detector. So, and I love it because I was tweeting to promote this earlier today, and the difference between Jack and, say, a machine or a body language expert is that he uses people's words in order to try to detect the deception, which I think there's nothing that's more effective than people's own words in trying to deduce whether or not they're being deceptive. And I love what you do. It fascinates the hell out of me. And I think you're just, I've never seen you whiff on one. And like, I'm serious, like in any of the content that I've watched, I've had those aha moments that Jay's talking about where I'm like, wow, man, like, and I parse words for a living. You know what I mean? So I really respect what you do, and you're just spot on. So like, I've really been looking forward to this. I think that the people that have not been had the pleasure to see what you do are going to absolutely love this, man. So, and I was talking off air with Jack, or off live. I'm going to try to suck him in for our Avery series because I've got 4 statements, and he's already done one of Avery's media statements. I'm going to try to suck him in because Jack also has a podcast for you guys out there, which we'll put that in the links as well. Make sure that you're listening because there's plenty of people out there, Jack, that I've learned that do YouTube, don't do podcasts, and plenty of people that do podcasts and don't do YouTube. So make sure you're checking out his pod as well.
Yeah, Jack's everywhere. And Jack, if you want, just like we've both kind of said, but if you want to just tell people, like, what can they expect, like an average episode of what you do when you're doing the statement analysis?
Yeah, I analyze people in the news, so I try to mix it up. So there's some true crime, and there's also just people in the news like P. Diddy recently. And what I do, Bob, you're talking about parsing words. Look, every single word we choose in our lives, we choose for a reason. Every single word. Sometimes we're just on autopilot and our brain's just picking the best word that, our brain knows what we're experiencing and what we're feeling and what we're thinking. And our brain just pushes that out there. And sometimes, potentially when we're doing testimonies in court in a murder trial, we're picking our words very carefully, every single word. And through that, whether we know which mode someone's in, we can detect what's really going on with them and what the potential truth is. What I'll say is, I will never go, yeah, that's a lie. This is a liar. She's a murderer. I'll never do that. What I will do is go, here's a whole lot of red flags around what this person is saying. So I'm going, are they telling the truth? And potentially this is where the truth lies.
And
I mean, can you sell something better than that?
No, I don't think
you can't sell anything better than that, man. Like, I am so ready for you because everybody in our audience that has been streaming this trial with Jay and I, like, we all were on the edge of our seats during this testimony of Jenn McCabe. It was so anticipated, man. Like, I am dying to hear what you have dug up, man.
Well, listen, I was in that audience with watching you guys do it. I think you've done a great job through this trial, by the way. I don't know how you find the energy to keep doing it sometimes. And also, I think the trial itself has been fascinating. Josh was on yesterday talking about how it is, he called it entertainment, and I know exactly what he means. You want to know what happens next.
Right.
But also the conversations you guys have been having in the breaks and the recesses, in the sidebars, has been fascinating as well. So thank you for that.
We appreciate that, man. Thank you very much for the compliment.
And I have this queued up, and I'm going to start, but there's a couple things I want to kind of say. First of all, Jenn McCabe has not been charged with anything. We are just evaluating whether she's being truthful or not. Like, we don't condone anyone ever harassing a witness. That's not what this is about. This is about just evaluating her words, and just based on Jack's opinion and his analysis, is she being truthful here? Is she being evasive? That's all we're doing here. And I know people have a lot of strong opinions about her, but let's relax with any comments about her appearance. We're just going to talk about her and what she says and Jack's analysis. So I have this queued up. Let me.
Yeah, and just to follow up with that, I mean, we're doing what we expect every juror that's ever sat in a juror's box to do. You are to evaluate the credibility of the witness, and that's all that we're doing. And whatever way this will help us determine whether or not Jenn was credible, it's an act that we like. I would love to be able to have a Jack available for every trial so that Jack could go back during deliberations and say, okay, well, here's what I've determined based on what they said on the stand. Like, it's a very useful tool in order to try to figure out whether or not somebody's being deceptive on the stand. So like, I'm really looking forward to it. And I echo absolutely every word that Jay said. This is not the place to start harassing the witnesses. That is not in any way, shape, or form what we're doing at all. And yeah, keep like the physical appearance comments off. Like, we don't need it. Frankly, I think like Jen's pretty attractive. I mean, I know she's got like the little crooked tooth thing. Like, people are like, she's missing a tooth. I'm like, no, she's not. It's like one of her bottom teeth is pushed back a little bit. So everyone calm down.
Oh, I got the first. All right, so this is how it works. Folks who have not watched with Jack, he gives me timestamps. We play a little bit. He pauses, and then he gives an analysis. So this is from the first day of her testimony. And here we go.
They lived.
No.
Can you hear that, by the way?
Do you recall whether or not you found their homes
Yes.
by way of sort of yes, or was it just sort of verbal directions?
I'm assuming they just gave Matt directions to where they lived.
So you dropped each of them off. Do you recall which order they were dropped off in?
Julie, then Sarah.
And then following dropping off Sarah, where did you and your husband go?
Home.
And this whole trip sort of from Fairview to dropping off Ms. Nagel, Ms. Levinson, and then going home, about how long a period of time is that?
It could be 20, 30 minutes, maybe about approximately 20 minutes. Not exactly sure.
You arrived home sometime after 2 a.m., is that correct?
Yes.
And when you and your husband Matt got home, went inside the house, and where did you go?
I went upstairs to bed.
And at some point, did your husband come up as well?
He did.
Was it a long period of time between when you arrived home and when your husband came up?
I don't think too long. I think he had like some cheese or something because he was on a crazy diet, and then he came upstairs.
Now, did you go right to sleep, or what, if anything, did you do when you went up to bed?
I asked him to watch a show. He said no, he was going to fall asleep, which he does usually immediately. And I went on my phone.
And what, if anything, do you recall doing on your phone as far as going on?
I was researching. My husband and I did briefly talk. My daughter had gotten an offer to play on a club
Just tell us what you mean, please.
Sure. I was researching a basketball team, and I believe I also texted my sisters, and I texted in a group chat with my husband and another individual.
Cool.
God.
So one thing I want to say on this is that she talks all the way through there in the past tense, which is what you would expect when someone's talking about past events. They talk in the past tense. Quite often, if someone is making up a story and they didn't really experience it, they can slip into the present tense because they're actually making it up as they talk in their brain. So they talk in the present tense. Now, I watched, I think, 6 hours of this testimony, and she gave a lot of testimony in present tense. And I was like, whoa, what's going on here? But I realized, especially with Lally, he asks questions in the present tense. So instead of saying, what did you do next? He was asking her, and what do you do next? And if he asked a question in the present tense, she answered in the present tense. So, because I was like, this is all these potentially deceptive, but actually she was only matching the question. And that's really important when we're looking at someone's words, if they're answering questions, to pay attention to the question as well. So in this one, she is all past tense, which is what we would expect. I chose this bit because this is around the question. It's not stated here by the prosecution, because this is around the Google search. This is the time that she allegedly made that Hoslong to die Google search, and he's covering off and then getting in front of what she was doing at that time. And it's really interesting, actually, because he asks, what if anything, did you do when you went up the stairs? She says, I asked him to watch a show. He said no, he was going to fall asleep, which he does usually immediately. And I went on my phone. Now, she doesn't say he did fall asleep. He just says, he said he was going to fall asleep, which he does usually. So there's, although the picture painted is that Matt came in, said, I'm going to go to sleep, turned over and fell asleep. She doesn't explicitly say that. So I'm wondering what's going on there. Why did she talk in a generality about what he usually does rather than what he did that night? He's then asked, what, if anything, do you recall doing on your phone as far as going on? And she was very stumbly here. Now, you're giving testimony in a murder trial. You are going to be stressed. You are going to be wanting to make sure your words are careful. But it was very stumbly. It was I had that she started off saying, I had. And then she starts again and says, I was researching. And then she says, my husband and I did briefly talk. So what she's doing here is, in order to make what she's about to say make sense, she has to jump back in time and say that there was a conversation that she hadn't mentioned. Now, I'm not saying this is a lie, but I found it very interesting where this came in the testimony. But very often when someone is deceiving, it's really hard to lie. Like, it's really, really complex to lie. You've got to match up what you know in real life with what you think about in your head, and you're making it up as you go along. Quite often, someone, when they're telling a lie, is about to say something, realize it won't make sense unless they have to go back in the timeline and tell a lie to make the next part of the lie make sense. Now, I'm not saying that's what she's doing here, but it is very, very typical lying, deception tactics. And what I found exceedingly interesting was the point of the testimony where it happens, which is this is the time she was allegedly not making that Google search. She says, we had that conversation. The judge stops her. She says, just say what you were saying, which is what she should have done in the first. Just say what you were doing, which she should have done in the first time. She was researching a basketball team. And I believe I also texted my sisters, and I texted a group chat with my husband and another individual. So she's hiding the identity of that individual. For some reason, I don't know. I don't know why she was texting her husband there. But it was, that answer, given it's such a crucial period of time, needed a lot of explaining rather than just a lot of telling. You know, what did you do? When I went to bed last night, I put a podcast on, turned over and fell asleep. I don't need to explain to you why I took all of those steps. Now, this could just be because it's a very sensitive subject that she knows she's going to get grilled on. But I found it interesting that she had to do that, go back and explain why what she's about to say happened.
Very interesting. All right.
Yeah. And so with respect to that exact scenario, do you think that at this point in the direct examination, are you evaluating whether, like, where her comfort level is?
Yes. So I've watched the entire testimony that she gave, and she's very comfortable in this direct questioning. She's more relating events, apart from at certain parts, and we're going to look at one of those next, and less explaining why things happen. What I did notice, and I don't know if you guys have noticed this through the trial, is that I've lost my train of thought now. What was I going to say? What did you ask me? Comfort zone. Yeah. They get exceedingly twitchy when they're on cross. And exceedingly, I cannot think of a better way of saying it than they get all the people I've seen so far, very twitchy around the certain parts that have been blasted on social media for the past year. Now, right. Is that because there is a point to all those things that have been said and they are true and they are sensitive? Or is it just that they've lived through hell of having this on blast for a year and a bit, right, and know that what they say there is potentially going to, cause them even more grief? I don't know. But on that one, it just really stood out to me. It's something you don't hear a lot when someone's telling the truth, which is that having to go back and tell an earlier part of the story so what you're about to say next makes sense.
Yeah, and an example of that I have in it's written word, not spoken word. When I was doing my Gacy series, I had discovered that the law enforcement had planted this photo receipt, which was the most famous piece of evidence that got Gacy, and that the story had always been that this particular receipt was left in the pocket of Gacy's last victim by a female coworker who had been wearing his jacket, right? And so as I was progressing through that series, and then I end up talking to the old cops, and two of the old cops, like, I was like, hey, there's got to be something that you haven't said in one of these 40 other interviews you've done over the last 40 years. And Mike Albrecht, one of the old cops, he's like, well, there's one thing, that photo receipt, you know, that photo receipt. I'm like, of course I know it. It's like, it's the piece of evidence that got Gacy. He's like, well, they didn't really find that in his inside garbage in his kitchen. So I was like blown away, like at that point, because I understood the significance of it in terms of that's how they got the second warrant to get into the house when they discovered all the bodies. But this, to fast forward, when I start putting the pieces together as to how it had happened, there's this statement that was written by that girl who had told the story that she had put the receipt in Rob's pocket. And this is 7 days after they had already spoken to her twice. And I'm talking about law enforcement. And she spends 3 pages just coming up with all these different reasons as to why she may have put that receipt in his pocket. Didn't discuss anything else in this statement until, like, I want to send you that so I can get, like, I don't even want to tell you any more of what I thought about it, but I want you to look at it because, like, what you were talking about, like prefacing, like everything kind of like leading up to a story and giving all this background. I'll be very interested to have you take a look at it, and I'd like to see your thoughts. I don't want to tell you exactly what my thoughts are because I'm dying to know what yours are.
Bob, you are sending me the most wonderful reading material. Thank you.
You'll enjoy it. You'll enjoy it.
All right. Let's go to the next timestamp here, and here we go.
And Miss Reed just continued to run around screaming. As more officers and EMT arrived, they asked what happened. One EMT asked, you know,
I'll allow it.
one EMT had asked, you know, his name, his age, things like that. If she knew what happened, Miss Reed stated that she hit him. Besides running around saying, I hit him, did I hit him, could I have done this? Is he dead? Is he dead? At one point, one of the police officers put Miss Reed in the back of her cruiser, and he asked for myself to go over with her, and Kerry came over with us as well.
Okay.
And by the way, before you go, Jack, I forgot to mention this. Another reason we did this particular witness, Jen McCabe, is these parts are massive parts for the jury. I hit him. The Google search, like, we really wanted to get Jack's opinion on that. So sorry, go ahead, Jack.
No, that's all right. So once again, this is told in past tense, which would be an indication that perhaps it could be truthful. But what I want you to notice is this part here, and just remember this for later. She says, one EMT asked, and then she's interrupted by the judge, so she starts again and says, one EMT had asked, you know, his name, his age, things like that. If she knew what happened, Miss Reed stated that she hit him, besides running around saying, I hit him, did I hit him, could I have done this, is he dead, is he dead? At one point, one of the police officers put Miss Reed in the back of a cruiser. So it's really clear what she's saying there. She says twice it was an EMT who asked the question, and she responded with, I hit him, I hit him. And then she's very clear that once this had been said to the EMT, a police officer, which police officers, EMTs, very different people, and she's got different people in her head there, takes Miss Reed and puts her in the back of a cruiser. I just want you to remember that for something we're going to hear later on. But other things I have to say, do you have a strong picture of what she's talking about when she says, one EMT asked, you know, his name, his age, things like that, if she knew what happened? Miss Reed stated that she hit him, beside running around saying, I hit him, did I hit him, could I have done this, is he dead? To me, again, we've got this jump around thing. Was she talking to an EMT, providing these biographical details and stating, I hit him, or I hit him, I hit him, I hit him? Or was she running around saying, I hit him, is he dead? Did I hit him, could I have done this? It's not very clear, is it?
No.
And, you know, number one of my rules in this is if someone's telling you about events, if you can picture it really clearly in your head, there's a real chance that they've got the authentic language and they've managed to communicate with you what they're talking about. If it's not exactly real, if they're manufacturing something or trying to hide something or something like that, the picture they will be able to paint in your head with their words, because they're not authentic words, gets a bit fuzzier. Again, Jay, you've caveated all of this. I'm not saying at this point this is a lie, but again, at this really crucial point in evidence, we've got some stress and we've got some mush in the storytelling there. But what I will take from that is it was an EMT who asked the question before she said, I hit him. It was a police officer that put her in the cruiser. And she also says she was running around saying, I hit him. Did I hit him? Could I have hit him? Is he dead?
You know, and someone pointed out in the chat a good point. Typically, throughout all her testimony and most of these people's testimony, they refer to Karen Reed as the defendant. But in this part, she says Mrs. Reed. Someone pointed out in the chat. That's a good point. That
yeah, there's more on this. About another 20 seconds on this we can play as well, Jay. Before you
go back to the other video. Sorry,
yeah, if you can.
Yeah, you know, I can. Here we go.
I'd like to just take you back to when the paramedic is asking for information, biographical information, things like that. You indicated that the defendant said, I hit him. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's something that she said once or more than once?
3 times. I hit him. I hit him. I hit him.
Now, before you had made reference to statements she made with sort of qualifiers or questions as far as could I have hit him or did I hit him? Is that what she said at that time when she was speaking to the paramedic?
No, she was earlier. It was could I, did I? When she spoke to the paramedic, it was crystal clear. I hit him.
Okay.
Now,
so once again, we've got her speaking to the paramedic and saying, I hit him. And then, I don't know, does anyone know, does Jen McCabe have some sort of dramatic acting training or an interest in the arts? Because her dramatic telling of things in threes is amazing. I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. Did I hit him? Could I have hit him? Is he dead? Her boom, boom, boom is very, very interesting to me. I don't think she's the only witness that's done this as well. Did we have some of the EMTs saying it was 3 times I hit him, I hit him, I hit him?
They did.
Which could be factual. She could have said those things 3 times and they match up. Although in the first part of that we watched, she didn't say it 3 times. She stated that she hit him, not I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. So there's a bit of incongruence against what she's saying here. Potentially nerves, potentially tension, but this is the easy part of telling that story when you're telling it to Lally.
Keep going with this clip or start the next
No,
one?
we can go to the next one.
All right, this is the next day, folks. Day 15. Let me make sure I have the right time here. All right, here we go.
Go Sarah Levinson and Brian Albert Jr.
And then you arrived, as we saw, you walked through the parking lot, got in your car, you arrived with your husband, Matt.
Yes, correct.
I want to ask a question about Mr. Higgins.
Mhm.
On Friday that you saw his vehicle when you got to the scene, correct?
Yes.
And you said that it was pulled up a little bit in front of the mailbox, correct?
Yes.
Can we have exhibit 66 with the court's permission, please?
Okay.
This is a digital model of the location. Do you recognize this?
Yes.
There appear to be a relative scale model of 34 Fairview.
Yes.
This would be the front door, correct?
Yes.
And where's the mailbox? If you can point to it with the laser pointer. Okay, so you're pointing to an area just in front of a car that's in the driveway, correct?
Yes.
And then the driveway is to the right.
Yes.
And then along this line is the front lawn area and property line of 34 Fairview, correct?
Yes.
You indicated that Jeep was just a little bit in front of the mailbox, meaning about there, correct?
Yes.
And the rear end of that Jeep would be butting up against the driveway,
Yes.
or at least the line of the driveway, correct?
Stop here.
That's
And by the way, obviously we are now on to Cross, so this is a different animal. Go ahead.
I don't have much to say before we continue, only that so far in this section, she's answered at most 2 words to every question. It's been yes or yes correct, which is straightforward, it's truthful, it's helpful, it's not qualified in any way whatsoever. And I have to say, looking at all of her testimony, that she does a lot of this, especially with things that are not in dispute, or if someone tried to argue with it, well, it's there in black and white on the screen, or it's there on a bit of paper in front of you. She's very, very crisp, sharp, short with her answers. Yes, no, correct, which is what she has been all the way through here. Well, we've been talking about where she says the Jeep was parked, and also about the layout of the house. The next question gets different.
Let's keep playing this one or go to the next
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Okay.
Quite a bit of detail about where that Jeep was. Would you agree?
No, because I drove down the street and I took a left into the driveway and there was a Jeep there.
Okay. What I'm asking is, you didn't just say, your memory was not just somewhere in front of the house. It's literally right in front of the mailbox, the front end of it, adjoining the line of the driveway, correct?
Yes,
That detail obviously stuck out in your mind.
it did, because I was wondering whose Jeep it was.
Did you discuss that detail with your husband at any point?
Not sure.
You're not sure? You might have.
I'm not sure if I said whose Jeep is that.
No, I don't mean then. I mean between then and now, have you and Mr. McCabe ever discussed where that Jeep was, or your memories of where that Jeep was?
Possibly.
You're aware that you put the Jeep in the...
So you notice the difference, yeah?
Did you see her look at the judge?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jackson says to her, that's quite a bit of detail about where the Jeep was. Don't you agree? And she says, no, because I drove down the street and I took a left into the driveway and there was a Jeep there. It doesn't answer the question in any way whatsoever. So, for, again, whatever reason, she has a lot of sensitivity about the placement of this Jeep when she's pressed on it. He goes on to ask later, did you discuss this detail with your husband? And she says, not sure. Not, I'm not sure, but not sure. When people drop pronouns like that, they lack ownership of the words. Again, this can be another indication of deception. When you don't put I in front of it, or my in front of it, or he did something. So she just says, not sure, which is actually very, very short and sharp for her when she's going around the houses. It's put to her, I'm not sure. She says, I'm not sure if I said, whose Jeep is that? And she's told, no, I mean, between now and then, have you ever discussed that there was a Jeep? Was your memories of where that Jeep was? And she says, possibly.
Which is yes. Come on. Possibly, yes. You did. You did. I mean, just admit, just say yes.
It is. It's a yes or no question.
It really is. And I mean, look, as an attorney on cross, it's your mandate to control that witness. You are trying to force them into only giving yes or no answers. It's the opposite of a direct examination, where you're allowing the witness to give a narrative, which is what you always see on cross-examination. And you'll see both Jackson and Yannetti like follow up. It's a yes or no question. It's a yes, or when people try to give like extrapolated answers where they're just going on and on, it's a yes or no answer. And the thing that's interesting about this portion of it, Jack, is that Jay and I keep talking about it during the stream, is that all of the witnesses who have come on post Ricky, Ryan Nagel, and Heather, who unequivocally state during their direct examinations that there was nothing that was blocking their clear view of the Lexus SUV. We then have the witnesses come after them that say that Brian Higgins' Jeep is there. So like Jay and I have really been struggling with, well, why would Lally have done that? He had to know that those three witnesses were all going to testify, who all came off as very credible to me. that they were not placing Higgins' Jeep there, which would have obstructed their view of the Lexus. And now we have these witnesses who are now placing the Jeep there. Like, we keep trying to figure out, why did Lally do that? Is he purposefully undermining those witnesses because for his narrative, he needs that Jeep there? He wants something blocking the view of the Lexus. Like that is just something that constantly runs through my mind, especially when I kept hearing this testimony about the Jeep being there. So it's fascinating to me.
Well, I haven't heard exactly all the testimony you've been talking about people who say it's not there. But what I do know is there's more to come on. There's a lot more to come about this Jeep. She is extremely sensitive about giving this evidence, extremely, which is why I picked this part out, because to me, when I was watching it, I'm going, I think she's being truthful there. I think she's been not truthful there. I think there's some question marks there. And this Jeep part, if you had to put me up right now and go, was there a Jeep part where she said there was or not? I would have to say not, based on the way she talks about it. I don't think she believes that Jeep was there at all. Does that mean that something else happened to John O'Keefe? No, it doesn't. What it means is I don't buy what she's saying about the Jeep.
Interesting. So do you want me to keep playing here?
Yeah, keep playing, yeah.
And by the way, before I do keep playing, how much time, Jack, do you take? Like, it takes you like how much time did you take to analyze this? Like, how many hours do you think you took?
So I had to watch it in real time, which is 6 hours. I think this testimony was, I fast forwarded recesses, sidebars. And then I will find the bits that I want. So I'll make notes as I go on the interesting bits. I will then transcribe them, which again is a real time job. And as I'm doing them, I'm thinking. And then I will sit. So 2, 3, 4 hours of analysis once I've done all of that. But I am doing some of the analysis while I'm watching it. So it does take a lot of time. And I have to say, this is because it's been so much to go through. If I did this for another month, I'd probably keep finding stuff and keep finding stuff and keep finding stuff inside it, because the more you sit with it, the more things come up. And quite often you go through an analysis and get to the very end, and then you go back to the start, and all of a sudden things at the start popping up because they don't match what was said towards the end, and you go, wait a minute, and I have to start and attack this again.
So for everyone who's watching this on this right now or on the replay, please just give Jack a follow on Twitter, his podcast, at the very least on YouTube here. Show him the love, because he took a lot of time and effort to do this, and we appreciate it. And that's how we can show him some appreciation. So
Absolutely. We are very thankful that you did this. And there's an interesting question on my chat, and somebody had asked, I think DB had asked, did you watch any of McCabe speaking not on the stand in comparison, or does that not matter in your evaluation?
No, it doesn't. I get this a lot, especially from people that watch body language videos, because in body language, you need to baseline someone. You need to know what they're like at rest, at ease, with no stress, because what body language really is picking up on stresses and deviations from when someone is there. No. It may be helpful if you know some people do every second line when they're talking, or use like or things like that. It can be helpful like that in a way, but I'm really just looking at the words they use and asking why they used those words. And look, sometimes I may get something wrong that's based around what they would normally say, and I think it's suspicious. Sometimes I may get a dialect wrong, or even just listen and hear the wrong word. But I never, ever, I won't listen to one answer from someone and go guilty. It's all about repeated patterns. The more repeated patterns of deception or interesting observations that I have, then the bigger and fuller picture I would have with someone.
Excellent. Excellent.
Exact same place that you did.
Objection.
Are you aware of that?
I am. Oh, wait. No, excuse me. Repeat the question.
You're aware that he puts the Jeep in the exact same spot you just put the Jeep, right in front of that mailbox, right?
I know he knows where the Jeep was. I'm not aware what he said in here.
Does he know where the Jeep was because you told him what to say about the Jeep?
Absolutely not. It's because we drove together in the car, and I asked. I possibly could have asked.
One at a time, please, ma'am.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to step on your words. I thought you
That's okay. You can continue.
Oh, thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
appreciate that.
I don't think we got your answer, though.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Madam Court Reporter was asking for your answer.
Can you repeat your answer?
To the question of did he know where the Jeep was?
Whether or not you told him where the Jeep was.
I did not need to tell Matt where the Jeep was. He knew because we were in the car together.
But you two discussed it.
When are you asking?
At any time between January 29th and today.
I'm sure we have, yes.
Stop there.
You were also
A couple of things on that is that her reason why they have the same view of where the Jeep was, as she states it, is it's because we drove together in the car. Now, I know what she wants to say is that we experienced the same thing. You know, we both saw the Jeep there. That's why, you know, it agrees. We agree with each other and where it is. But she doesn't say that out loud. She just says the reason we knew where the Jeep was is because we drove together in the car. So she's not finishing off the picture there. Again, I'm not saying she's lying, but when we don't have the authentic experience, we don't have the real words to say what we experienced because we're making it up, then we may use half thoughts and part thoughts like that. So is that what happens there? And yeah, she says it twice. I did not need to tell Matt where the Jeep was because he knew because we were in the car together. Now, she doesn't say she didn't tell Matt where the Jeep was. She just said, I didn't need to tell Matt where the Jeep was. So that's, again, when I talk about looking at word choices, why didn't she say, I didn't tell him where it was? We saw it together. And no, I did not need to tell Matt. And then to your point, Jay, when did you discuss it? When are you asking? Anytime between 29th and January 29th and today. And she said, I'm sure we have. Yes, which was a possibly and a not sure before.
Right.
So she's something going on there because when you find contradictions, that's when you really start looking and going, what's going on here? Why weren't you just saying, I'm sure we have, or probably yes, or something like that? As you were asked that question the first time, why did you have to say not sure and possibly?
And Jack, I love the fact that you were unaware of these other witnesses, that this was an issue, that the three other witnesses had distinctly said that Jeep wasn't there. For you to be evaluating and reaching the conclusion that she may not be being truthful here with respect to the Jeep's location without having that context of these prior witnesses who had placed it there is huge to me.
Yeah, I do my best work when I know nothing about the words that I'm dealing with. So shorn of context, shorn of knowing any background or anything like that, then that's when I will actually produce the best work. When I know what's happened, I can't help, and no one can help some biases coming in or you know, sort of confirmation bias. I have to say though, I started off my Karen Reid journey by analyzing her interview on Nightline, and I found so many problems with that. You know, my conclusion at the end of that was, look, I can't say what happened, but from what she said, I have so many issues with her description of the events that night. It's right that she's on trial. So in terms of making me right, there's nothing more I'd like than to look at people like Jen McCabe and go, oh my God, they are telling the truth and they are straightforward. And, you know, really all this hoo-ha about what has gone on in Canton is a big nothing burger. But instead, no, I'm finding questions, and I'm finding questions about things like this, like the Jeep.
Very interesting. Bob, is that you, Bob?
I don't know, dude.
Stress or
It's Alice.
Allie. You want to mute you?
Yeah, mute me till I figure out where the hell.
All right. Do you want me to go to the? Wait, is it better now, Bob? Or
I don't know.
I don't hear anything now. All right.
So maybe it was you, Jay. Maybe you had.
That was Allie talking. That wasn't me.
No, but
sir.
it was a recording. It was like a video playing somewhere. I don't know where.
Jack, do you want me to go to the next?
Yeah, no, keep on going with this one.
Okay.
also interviewed by Trooper Proctor on January 29th, 2022, correct?
Yes.
And you were asked a series of open-ended questions. What did you see? Where did you see it? Correct?
Yes.
Are we putting words in your mouth?
No.
We told you what to say at that time.
No.
And you told Trooper Proctor that when you arrived at the scene, after you got there, you, quote, first observed the vehicle, meaning Miss Reed's SUV, parked on the street by the driveway facing the direction of Chapman. Correct?
Do you have something I can look at to refresh my memory?
Sure.
Stop
Do you
it.
not have a...
No, dying to know your thoughts of how many times he was like, please show me something to refresh my memory.
Well, look, she starts off being very crisp and clear again. You were, what did you see? You were asked questions about what did you see, right? And she says yes. And you were told what to say at the time. She says no, right? So she's very, very direct. And then she's asked what she told to Trooper Proctor about where the car was parked. And then she says, do you have something I could look at to refresh my memory? Now, number one, that's just a classic stalling tactic where someone asks you a question that you're not ready to answer because you haven't seen the question coming, and you want to make sure that the answer you give is the one that you want to give. Then asking a question in response to a question buys you that thinking time for your brain to come up with a form of words that you want to use. So that is a classic stalling tactic to do that. However, I don't know if you guys have noticed, I've also noticed that, what did you call them, Bob? The McAlberts or whatever it was? Yeah, right?
Yeah, the McAlberts.
Whenever a question is asked of them of testimony that they gave to the grand jury, they ask to have their memories refreshed almost without exception. And I wonder, I'm not a legal expert, but I wonder if they're worried about perjuring themselves at some point as they go through this, because whenever the question is what they said at the grand jury, then they ask for the clarification. They ask, can I see that? Can I have my memory refreshed?
Very interesting. Keep going with this clip or go to the next one.
Yeah, I'll keep going with this one.
You're remembering exactly what you told Trooper Proctor?
Well, I know what I'm.
Yes or no? You need your memory refreshed?
I would like to see what the report says, please.
Permission? Yes. Thank you. I'm going to direct you to vaccines. Portion, let me know after you've reviewed it. Just read it to yourself. Did you have that? Does that refresh your recollection?
Yes, I know. I told.
I'm asking you. I'm so sorry to do this. I don't mean to be rude. I'm just asking you. Does that or does that not refresh your recollection?
Regarding
What you said to Trooper Proctor on the 29th.
Well, I know what I said to Proctor Trooper on the 29th.
Oh, Proctor Trooper.
Which I love the fact we get to use the Proctor Trooper bit. What I want to just talk about that answer before we move on very quickly. She is asked, does that refresh your memory regarding what you said to Trooper Proctor on the 29th? And she says, I know what I said to Proctor Trooper on the 29th. She meant Trooper Proctor, but she was very, very straight and very unequivocal. I know what I said to Trooper Proctor on the 29th. Remember that as we go on.
Court rules.
Mhm.
Does that help you with your recollection of what you told Trooper Proctor?
I didn't tell I told Trooper Proctor the car was outside when I looked at the front door and was straight outside.
I can't quite get the answer I'm looking for. The court is going to require me to ask this question again.
Mhm.
Does that refresh your recollection, yes or no, as to what you told Trooper Proctor? Yes.
I did not say this to Trooper Proctor, no.
It doesn't help.
No.
Okay. May I approach?
Yes.
Thank you.
Just there again, she's very clear about what she said. Sorry.
On the 29th, correct?
Correct.
And Trooper Proctor asked you some very specific questions about where things were, correct?
Correct.
Focused on Miss Reed's SUV, didn't he? asked you questions about where Miss Reed's
If
SUV
you
was.
can show me in the report.
Just read it.
So just off of what I just read, is that what you're going off of? Yes?
I'm asking for your memory. You're testifying.
Yes, so my memory is exactly where the car was.
Hold on. So it's very important that both of you, one person at a time, speaks.
Okay.
Madam Court Reporter has to do what you're both saying, and she can't do it simultaneously. So the best way to do that is, Ms. McCabe, just let counsel ask the question
Okay.
and then you answer. And if it takes a lot more time than we expect it to take, it does. Okay, so just
Thanks.
go ahead, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll slow it down. Did you talk to Trooper Proctor about where the SUV was?
Yes,
Thank you. And he asked you questions about where it was situated outside, correct?
yes,
And you told him that you first observed it parked on the street by the driveway facing the direction of Chapman, correct?
I told him that when I looked out the front door, the car was straight ahead. And yes, it was facing up Chapman.
And you left out a little part by the driveway, correct?
That could have been his interpretation or an error on his part.
I see. So Trooper Proctor is wrong about what you said.
Objection.
No, I'll let him have it. Do you think he's wrong about what you said?
I 100% said it was straight out the front door.
Okay, next question, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. And during the course of that conversation, you never once, Ms. McCabe, not once, mentioned a several-ton Jeep with a snowplow attached to it, did you?
I'm not sure if I did or not.
Let's think about it. Would that refresh your recollection?
Before you do that, can you do some live analysis? Before we went live, Bob said, I have like 6,000 tabs open, and I'm not sure why. And then he just said, Jay, it's your fault that this noise is coming out. Go ahead, Jack. Go ahead.
I found it. It was
Good
like
job,
all
Bob.
of a sudden it was an alley track from the podcast that had opened up for some reason on Apple Music. Like, how
Good
is a
job.
guy who knows nothing about tech? You saw how long? Could you guys tell that I was desperately
Yes,
trying?
I could tell you were panicking.
Good
Go ahead,
God.
Jack.
So look, she was very clear when she came back. She said, I know what I said to Trooper Proctor on the 29th, right? She said her memory had been refreshed, but very unequivocally, I know what I said to Trooper Proctor on the 29th. She goes through some questions and she does have that knowledge. And when what is in the report doesn't match with what she said, she argues with it and says, no, this is what I said, this is what I said, this is what I said. And then she's asked, and during the course of that conversation, you never once, Miss McCabe, not once mentioned a several-ton Jeep with a snowplow attached to it. And she says, I'm not sure if I did or not. Well, wait a minute. Either you know what you said to Trooper Proctor in very unequivocal terms and could argue with what his
Right.
notes of it and so on, or you're not sure if you said something or not.
That's
Very,
interesting.
yeah. Look, I don't know the truth. I don't know whether there's a Jeep there or not. What I do know is that she is very sensitive around this subject of the Jeep. As soon as the Jeep came up, those short yes, 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 no answers stopped. She was asking for reports. She was looking to see things. She was saying that the report didn't match her memory. She stopped all of that sharpness, and she is contradicting herself.
And to Bob's point, I think that's just so massive that you did not have that background information, and you yourself, by analyzing this with not having that, that's just, to me, that's like
It's
just massive.
huge. It's huge. It's like otherwise that's clouding your ability to be able to analyze it without having filters of other things that you've heard.
I've got to say, I still don't know why the Jeep is important, but it's
Neither do
important.
I. We've seen it all, and I still have no idea why Lally seems to be absolutely adamant about putting that Jeep in that position. In light of the fact that he put 3 witnesses on that said that it wasn't there, he's contradicting his own case in some ways. But again, we are not in Lally. Well, we just started, but all of this was not Lally's case in chief against Karen Reed. That was his rebuttal case against the defense's third-party culprit. So, in terms of I don't necessarily know that he cared about I think he may have been trying to do what many believe the defense is trying to do, just muck it up and make it so unclear that that nobody's going to be able to discern what was what. Like that people all had different perceptions of what was going on. But one thing is clear is that every witness is saying that John O'Keefe didn't come into that house, and every witness is saying that they never saw him get out of the vehicle. Those are the two constants. So yeah, it's a fascinating trial because like as you progress through this and we're seeing portions of her testimony wherein she appears to be deceptive, the question then becomes why? Because
Yes.
I'm not necessarily sold that anybody was that John O'Keefe went in that house. So then the question becomes, okay, well then why be deceptive?
I've just used a Scottish Y. I can see lots of comments coming up about me being Scottish in the corner of my eye, and I've just used an actual Scottish word. I hope that has pleased you. I'm with you. To me, at the very heart of this, there is some secret that's held by at least one person, and if we all knew what that secret was, we would understand why what Karen Reid says doesn't make sense, but why Jen McCabe seems to be a bit jumpy about certain things, we don't know.
Why some people are getting rid of phones, and why some people are deleting phone calls. Like there's something there. It doesn't have to be the conspiracy that the defense thing or that's being. But I've said this whole time. There is something there these people are trying to hide, and I maybe it's that we don't know. What's that?
Currently working on Brian Albert's testimony.
Oh,
Talking of
look out for
deleting
that video,
phones.
guys.
Oh boy.
All right, Jack. So do you want me to go to the next Jeep
just
stamp once or keep playing this?
Keep playing this.
Okay.
Just notice, play along at home, how sharp the first answers that are coming in the next part are once she's taken a look at the report, and then watch again when she breaks from going correct to, oh, I'm going to give longer answers and ask questions.
My question is a relatively simple one. I wonder if you have an opportunity. At no point, when you were describing the vehicles that were out front, in front of 34th Fairview on that night, at no point, under oath, in front of that grand jury, did you ever mention a Jeep? Did you?
I was not asked about any other vehicles out front.
So when you were talking about the vehicles that you saw in front, and with some painstaking detail, talking about the black SUV and Ryan Nagel's truck, you just left out the Jeep because nobody asked you about it.
I didn't read anything in that about Ryan Nagel's vehicle.
Did you miss it?
I must have.
Okay.
Is it in there?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, what?
In fact, asked about Ryan Nagel's Jeep, weren't you?
If you want to show me.
Well, I don't want to sit here and, did you review your transcript?
Just read it all. I didn't see it.
Ms. McCabe.
Objection.
You can't interrupt when I'm talking.
Okay.
And I will do the same for you. As you reviewed those pages, you were asked about the cars that you saw in front, did you not?
I was asked about Miss Reed's vehicle.
Okay. And at no point did you mention a Jeep being behind Miss Reed's vehicle, as you testified today, correct?
The questions were all about Miss Reed's vehicle.
At no point, my question is this, it's yes or no. You did or you didn't. Did you mention ever in that grand jury that there was a Jeep behind Miss Reed's vehicle? Yes or no?
I'm not sure. I'd have to read it all.
As you sit here, do you recall mentioning the Jeep?
I was asked about Miss Reed's vehicle, and those are the questions I answered.
You need to keep your
Okay.
voice up, please.
Sorry.
Let's try this again. As you sit here, do you recall mentioning the Jeep, ma'am?
I would have to reread the transcript.
You don't have to reread the transcript to answer that question. Do you recall mentioning the Jeep? If you don't, you don't.
I may not have been asked about the Jeep, so I did not mention the Jeep.
Fair enough. Did you, Mr.
Stop there.
Higgins?
This is more logic than words, but you saw again how she was asked questions about the Jeep and she didn't answer the questions. She spoke about something else. So that makes me go, why and what's happening? Now, we've only watched a short excerpt of this, and she's been told off several times for editorializing. And yet she wants us to believe that when she was at the grand jury, she only just plainly and simply answered the questions that she was asked very factually and
great
didn't add
point.
any information in.
Sorry,
I don't buy that.
No, I don't.
And I don't know. I know you don't do bi language, Jack, but do you notice that like there are certain points where when she wants to make a point, she'll shift her focus to the jury, and like to me, it's like a politician. She like has to get her point across to them. It's wild to me. I noticed that a lot during.
Yeah, I think that's what it says where your audience is, doesn't it? I think when we come to sum this up, if we get to finish it, I was going to say tonight, but today, in your time, I think she is on a mission in this testimony. And I think that mission is around the jury, or around what the jury hear. The jury are the most important people to her that she's talking to, which is why I think she looks at them a lot, because her mission is not to make Alan Jackson look like a bad lawyer, or to make Lally look like a great lawyer, or even to help find the facts, if I'm being honest. But I will explain more of that as I go.
So keep playing this clip. Or, go ahead, Bob.
And also, there's a couple of key phrases that multiple witnesses use. Many of them use absolutely not. There's at least 3 witnesses, when asked a question on cross-examination, say those exact 2 words. Like adamantly, absolutely not. And like in terms of prep, look, prosecutors, defense attorneys, they try to prep their witnesses as much as possible. They're going to instruct them in terms of answers that they may not necessarily know the answer to, or they don't understand the question. Like we've had a lot of the witnesses say, "Can you rephrase that?" Which is a very lawyerly thing to say. That's the way that lawyers speak to each other. It's not typically what you hear of witnesses, which I have found very interesting throughout the course of all of the testimony. But that absolutely not thing always hits me, because so many of them say it.
I have got 50 odd pages of Jen McCabe here, quite a bit of Brian Albert as well. They both use absolutely not.
Yeah.
And without exception, those are at sensitive parts around the key points that have been put out around the conspiracy theory, or whatever it is that you want to call it. And they're asked outright questions about that. And that's when they say absolutely not to those. Absolutely is one of the 8 words that liars use, by the way, which is available in a book by a really great guy. Absolutely comes up so often in Deception. I was absolutely shocked. I'm absolutely disgusted. Absolutely not. It is a weird old word. If someone says absolutely, I don't trust them.
Wait, whose book, Jack?
It's a book called 8 Words That Liars Use. It's available.
and who wrote it, Jack? Who wrote it?
It's available at all good Amazons. It's a really quick, easy way to just hack in and see if not necessarily that someone is lying, but it's the words that liars use. So if you hear those words, I sometimes use it as a gauge. If someone uses like 6 or 7 of those 8 words, then whoa, I'm staying away from that person.
And is that on your link tree? That's on your
find it there. Yes, you will. Yeah, neveratrueword.com. Job done.
So,
check that out.
So Jack, you didn't answer that question directly. Jay asked you who wrote it. And the answer was I did.
That's true.
There's some sensitivity around that there, isn't there? Obviously, there is. We'll have to ask some more questions and dig in and find out what's really going on there. Was it written by AI? Maybe was it?
By the way, folks, we have a lot more to go, so we're very likely. What is it, 8 o'clock by you? So you tell us, Jack, when you want to stop, and we'll break this into a second part.
It's 7 o'clock here, so we're fine. I can't.
Yeah, whenever the smell of the food wafts up and hits your nostrils, you just let us know, and we'll cut you loose.
Keep going with this one, or go to the next.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, keep going with this one.
Between then and now, between the date of the incident and now, have you ever had a conversation with Mr. Higgins about where his Jeep is parked?
No.
Have you ever had a conversation with Mr. Higgins about anything having to do with this case?
I do not believe so.
Did anyone leaving Mr. Higgins aside, did anyone tell you anything about Mr. Higgins's Jeep and what he testified to?
No.
Were you ever asked by anybody to mention a Jeep being behind Ms. Reed's SUV in this trial?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Were you ever asked by anybody to make sure you mention a Jeep being parked behind Ms. Reed's SUV in this trial?
Not that I recall, no.
Stop there. Did you see the 3 different answers she gave there to the questions?
Yeah.
All
Well,
with-
she was like, no. Then can you repeat the question? Then like, is that what you're going with, or something?
Yeah, it was exactly. There's 3. So you've seen her on a roll of no, or correct. But on this, although they were very similar negative questions, she said no a couple of times, which I think is potentially a believable thing from her. But then there was a, can you repeat the question? And there was also, I do not recall. So there's some, whatever he was asking there, I think it was, did you have a conversation with Brian Higgins? And it was no. But has anyone asked you? I do not recall. Well, they're 2 very different answers, aren't they? She's very certain about the Brian Higgins one, but less certain about the did anyone ask you to do this?
After you arrived and you noticed this SUV outside, you started paying somewhat close attention to it, did you not?
I went to the front door and looked out the window at the vehicle, yes.
As a matter of fact, you texted as soon as you saw the vehicle, that 1227 here, correct?
Correct.
And then a few minutes later, at 1231, you texted, pull behind me to John. Is that right?
Correct.
And then at 1240, you texted hello, correct?
Correct.
And at 1242, you texted, where are you?
Correct.
And at 1245, you texted hello, correct?
Correct.
So that's 5 text messages. And each time you texted him, you were walking to the door and looking out at the vehicle as you're texting, correct?
I know for the first 2 I was.
Yeah. And it's just another example of how she's on a roll with correct. And then when she's asked about each time you sent a text, you went to the door and checked, she goes, I know for the first 2 I was. And she doesn't expand any more than that. She's not really on a mission to give us the truth, to give us helpful facts, to find out what happened to John O'Keefe here, is she? She is on a mission to say a really limited version of the truth, if you know what I mean, and not just to, she's offering up plenty of things. Can I see a report? That's not what I said. She's, answering questions that weren't asked, but in other times she's getting really, really limited.
Very interesting. Keep going or go to the next time.
Next one now, which starts with some very straight answering.
Just make sure I have that. That is 117. Oh no, we already passed that. So that's 135. All right, we're getting to a different topic here, I think. All right.
Yes.
At no time did you hear any noise or sound outside that was unusual?
No.
You didn't hear any squealing of tires or squealing of brakes?
No.
You didn't hear any screaming or yelling?
No.
You didn't hear any loud voices or foul language or doors slam?
No.
You didn't hear any verbal argument or like revving of an engine, anything like that?
No.
Matter of fact, you didn't hear any collision or crash, did you?
No.
As a matter of fact, the entire time that you looked out at that vehicle with that clear and that good view, you didn't see anything out of the ordinary, did you?
No.
Stop. Look, you guys have seen all the testimony. Am I right in thinking that her testimony is that when she looked out the house once, Karen Reed's SUV was in one position, and then she looked out again and it had moved?
Yes.
That's out of the ordinary, is it not?
You mean in general? As a general proposition?
As a general, would you not say if you were waiting for someone coming in the house and you saw the car parked up, and then you look out the next time and the car's moved, and then you look at the next time and the car's moved again, and then the car's disappeared the next time, and
Yeah, I would find that to be unusual. The
Yeah.
way that I've construed, because there's been multiple witnesses that have testified that they saw the Lexus move. Again, I felt that Ricky, Ryan, and Heather were all very credible witnesses. And I think it was on cross wherein Jackson asked one of the witnesses, could you tell whether or not the car was in park and those were brake lights that you were seeing, or whether or not Karen just had her foot on the brake? Like typically you'll have a bit of a brighter glow when the brakes are being deployed. In my mind, having not been there, but just in terms of me trying to kind of think this thing out, I think that she just had her foot on the brake, and that whatever was going on in that vehicle, that she was kind of unwittingly letting off on the brake a little bit, maybe because she's obviously in the middle of a heated conversation with John about something, and she's moving forward a little bit slowly 3 times. But that's obviously me just speculating.
Yeah. So, and the question's asked, in fact, the entire time that you looked out at that vehicle with that clear and that good view, you didn't see anything out of the ordinary, did you? And she says, no. Now, she may consider the car moving around was very ordinary, or she's on autopilot, denying anything that she saw, because all the answers before have been no, 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 no. It's like the good salesman technique of you ask questions with a yes and then say, do you want to buy? And the people go, yeah. Oh crap, just because it's been the answer to the past 5 questions I've asked. But I found that one interesting, that this was a snowy night. So again, there's something out of the ordinary. This car was moving around and she just says no to that. I was interested.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Keep going, Jack, or go to the next one?
Yeah, keep going.
And you would agree with me, as you looked at the SUV, you're looking over the lawn to the SUV out at the street, correct?
Correct.
There was no obstruction between you and the SUV. You've already testified to that. Is that right?
Correct.
And you could see everything in your field of view.
Correct.
And then you saw the SUV gone. It had driven away after 12:45.
Correct.
So I have a question, Ms. McCabe.
Mm-hmm.
Where was the body?
I have no idea. I'm assuming the body was on the front lawn.
Stop. Right. I have no idea is a typical liar's answer. I'm not saying any more about this. I'm talking in general here. So if your window is smashed and you say, how did it get broken? Just think about how you would use it. And you go, I've no idea. You have ideas. Maybe someone threw a stone through it. Maybe you dropped something out at it. You have ideas, right? So when someone says, I don't know, that's usually quite honest. Honest people have no problem saying, I don't know. When someone says, I have no idea, then it is an indication they could be being deceptive. And then what's really interesting is she proves that theory right, because she says, I have no idea. And then she tells us she does have an idea. I'm assuming the body was on the front lawn. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not saying she's lying there, because actually what she does say is I have no idea, which would have made me go, And then she tells us what her idea was, which is it was on the front lawn. But really interesting. It's one of those off-guarded ones as well, that you can choose your words very, very carefully. And you think that saying I have no idea doesn't indicate anything. It indicates blank head. But it indicates very often that you're using almost a bit of a cliche to cover up for something. I'm not saying that's what's happened here, because she does go on to say what her idea is.
What I love about this is, and what the whole idea of your channel, Jack, is that all these like parents are pointing out, is universal. Like the next witness we watch, we can start using, like, are they saying no, no, no? And then are they explaining themselves? Like all these different things that's what the channel essentially is letting people know when you're talking to someone or listening to someone, Are they being deceitful? Are they trying to hide something? Are they being truthful? So it's just
And
it's just
what I love about it is that I apply it to myself. So when you like, you know what I'm saying? Like you'll say something and I'm like, oh shit. So every time that I've like, and I'll start thinking about times that I've answered questions and I've used, I have no clue. I have no idea. You know, like in those contexts, I'm curious as if I'm full of shit. You know, so I love that portion of it. I love that you do that.
I don't want to get too deep, Bob, but not all deception's malicious, right? So if you tell someone that their dress looks great when you think it's rubbish, you're actually coming from a very good place. But the chances are you're going to use the same language as lie. Would you say, I've no idea? Right. So when someone says to you, what do you want to eat tonight? And you say, I've no idea. That really means that you've got lots of ideas in your head. You've no preference or anything like that. It is technically deceptive because you do have ideas, but you're not committed to anything or saying anything out loud. That's the exact same way as it's used in deception. And I think not all lying is malicious and not all conversations are as important as giving witness testimony at a murder trial.
Absolutely. Are you in my house? Because that's essentially every night for dinner.
Well,
that's our
next
exact
time,
conversation.
I want Ali to tell you that you do have ideas and you need to get them out there.
She's lurking. She's getting her nails done, so I know she's lurking out there watching.
Keep going with this time.
Yeah, keep going with this one. Yeah.
The problem with that is you were looking for someone.
I was looking at the vehicle and where it had moved.
You know what field of view is?
Would you like to explain it?
You had a clear and good view across that lawn to the SUV, didn't you?
When it was straight out, I did, yes.
You had a clear and good view of that SUV the entire time until it left, didn't you?
I could see the black SUV, correct?
Nothing was obstructing your vision.
I wasn't looking at the ground.
I didn't ask you about the ground yet. We'll get to the ground. Nothing was obstructing your vision, was it?
No.
So you had a clear and good, your words, not mine, a clear and good view of the SUV.
Yes.
And everything in front of it.
I never said everything in front of it. I saw the SUV. It's black. It has lights on. And as it moved, I could see it with its lights.
You had a clear view of everything between you and the SUV. All the things closer to you and the SUV.
I wouldn't say that.
So your view was obstructed on what was between you and the SUV, but not obstructed on the SUV?
That's not what I was saying.
No, of course not. Because if you had a clear field.
Before you go, Jack, we have almost 1,000 people here. Thank you all so much for being here.
Yes.
Me and Bob did a duel here because we have both audiences that could subscribe to Jack, but also to remind you folks that we're both streaming the trial. We switched days, so if you could subscribe, you know, if you're not to mine and to Bob's, do it. And all of you, please subscribe to Jack's channel. Go ahead, Jack. Sorry.
I've been seeing it. People are subbing, Jack.
I have been seeing it too.
So good job. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. So you had a clear and good, your words, not mine, a clear and good view of the SUV. She says, yes, and everything in front of it. Her reply is, I never said everything in front of it. I saw the SUV. It's black. It has lights on. As it moved, I could see it with its lights. Okay, so what she started that answer with there was, I never said everything in front of it. Conceptually, her answer is not about what she experienced. Her answer is about what she said. So I never said everything in front of it. So what she doesn't say in words out loud is, I couldn't see everything in front of the SUV. I was only focused on the SUV. I could not see anything else. She actually is talking about what she said. You might think I'm splitting hairs. You might think I'm being pedantic, but she's actually talking about what she said, not what she experienced. And she continues on that theme. She's asked by Jackson, you had a clear view of everything between you and the SUV, all the things closer to you in the SUV. And she says, I wouldn't say that. Not, that's not true, or that is true, or it's, I wouldn't say that. Well, why wouldn't you say it? Why not tell us what you experienced?
Yeah,
right.
She's then asked, so your view was obstructed on what was between you and the SUV, but not, your view was obstructed on what was between you and the SUV, but not obstructed on the SUV. And she says, That's not what I'm saying. So in that whole section, her answers have been about what she's saying and not about what she experienced. And I found that part very interesting. Although it was again, nothing would please me more than to have my initial, Karen Reid needs some questions asked about her, all justified by everything that was coming up. I thought it was a great question from Jackson, and she had no answer to it. She couldn't clearly say what was there. And there's one more question and answer on this time stamp, Jay. See if you can spot why I have massive red flags over the answer to the next question.
Oh boy, a test. I'm gonna fail this. Oh boy.
Red flag alert. Red flag alert.
The SUV, you could see everything in front of it as well, meaning between you and the SUV as well.
If I'm looking straight out at an SUV, I'm not looking down at the ground.
Let me ask you a question about that. You're focusing right now.
If I'm looking straight out at an SUV, I'm not looking down at the ground.
I mean, you see the ground.
It's field of vision. This is the famous alligator.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. It's not. It's in present tense.
Oh.
And it's if. It's hypothetical. If I'm looking out at an SUV, I'm not looking down at the ground. Once more, she's not talking about what she experienced at that time. She's put a hypothetical out at us that if I was looking at an SUV, I'm not looking at the ground. She does not say, and I don't know why she doesn't say, if this is what she experienced, I was looking at the SUV, I was not looking down at the ground. The lawn never came into my peripheral vision. I was only focused on the SUV. That would be the way to tell what she wants us to believe in a very truthful manner. Instead, she goes to hypotheticals. If I was doing this, I wouldn't be doing this.
Look, the reality is there's no way that she's not seeing the ground in her field of vision when she's looking at the SUV. It's impossible. I can't look at anything in front of me if I'm staring at a picture frame directly in front of me. Everything that is around it, surrounding it, I'm seeing in my field of vision. So, I mean, there's no way that she could truthfully have answered that in any other way than, yes, I saw the ground, obviously, right? So,
yeah, and just as a human being who's looking at someone that's sworn to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, I don't know why that I didn't notice a body there. Do you know why this? Well, I do know why this. I do know why, because she's on a very specific mission, and this will not help her mission to say that she didn't notice the body there on the ground.
exactly.
Man, that present tense thing is one of those I talked about those oh shit moments, and it's such a moment where I didn't think of it watching it live, and I'll have to probably rewatch this again just to make it hit me again. I always get comments from people I had to rewatch, but yeah, she's not going back. She asked her to, and she says, that's just one of those oh shit moments.
Just with caveat, with care on this trial, Lally asks present tense questions about past tense events. So he does say a lot of, and so what do you do next? What time do you arrive at the waterfall? And some people will just match his tense.
But Jack, let me ask you, do you think that that's inadvertent? That's just like a trigger from Lally asking a present tense question as opposed to a past tense question? Or do you think that like the witnesses are actually aware that he's asked it in a certain tense? Because I mean, when you have a witness on the stand and you're asking them to recollect something, you're trying to put them back in that moment of time and describe what they're seeing in the tense that they saw it, which would have been present tense. You know what I'm saying? So
I know what you're saying. Look, a very truthful person will reflect back a lot of the question that they're asked. You know, so sometimes I find words that I'm like, oh, that's a bit suspicious, and then I've realized it was actually in the question. Now, if that word or that concept is introduced by the person asking the questions, then actually all they're doing is reflecting back what they were asked. What can be more interesting is the subtle changes that someone makes from a question that was asked to the answer they give. For example, do you remember what you were wearing that night? The question is about remember, and they say, I can't recall. and they've subtly changed the from the question to the answer. The tense thing, I don't know. Look, I don't want to be rude about anyone. I don't want to say this is maybe what Lally's doing, because I'm not sure he's that smart on it. But one of the reasons, and you've got to be very careful with this, by the way, is one of the reasons someone will talk about past events in the present tense if it involves trauma. Because when they're talking about it, it feels, and they can feel like they're experiencing the trauma again in real time. You know, we've all had those moments where just talking about something that's happened to us makes us feel a certain way.
Yeah.
And we may move into present tense at that point because we're experiencing it again as it happens. For example, there's a bit where Jen McCabe's giving a bit of information about finding John O'Keefe's body, and she talks in the present tense there. And I'd say, no matter what has happened, that was a traumatic event for her. I would expect, or I'm not going to penalize someone for saying that in the present tense. But also, the present tense can be a way of making stories more dramatic. So if you've got someone with a lot of drama and so on, instead of saying, I did this, they'll say, I'm doing this. So you go on a journey and you experience it all in real time. So has he been taught to ask questions in the present tense to make it all seem a bit more alive and happening now, so the jury start picturing things in their heads? I don't know. Or is that just how his mind works?
If you're suggesting there's a
Brilliant
method to this
observation,
madness,
man.
there isn't, I don't think.
I love that. I love that. Like I've never thought of it like that until you know, just in terms of the tenses, you know, it's like I've never picked that up, and I've been questioning witness, like, where were you 20 years ago, man? Like I needed you 20 years ago.
I was working all this stuff
out. Do you want me to go to the next one or keep going on this one?
No, it's the next one next.
All right, so that's 147. All right. By the way, shout out to my wonderful wife, Shannon. Jack initially sent this in the form of our videos, but the last time me and Bob did that, it was like Inception because we saw ourselves and we were talking. so Babe went and she time-stamped it. So thanks, Babe, for doing that.
Oh, Shannon, thank you.
She's the best.
Correct.
Not once, not twice, 3 times. I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. Correct?
Correct.
You have a very specific memory of that event, do you not?
I do.
Obviously, that's an incredibly impactful thing for you to remember. Is that right?
It was an impactful statement, yes.
And you remember it today as well as you remembered it the day she did it?
Yes.
I may have just a moment. Thank you. Just the entirety. Review anything before you testified in preparation for your testimony today or Friday?
Yes.
Review your grand jury testimony?
I did, yes.
Understood. You did review your grand jury testimony, correct?
Yes.
So the document in front of you, you recognize it?
Yes.
That is, in fact, a true and correct copy of your grand jury testimony that you gave on April 26th, 2022. Is that right?
Correct.
You'll agree that your testimony in that case, in that hearing, rather, April of 2022, that was just a few months after the events in question, right?
Yes.
You were under oath at the time that you gave that testimony?
Yes.
And you were subject to the penalty of perjury when you were answering those questions, correct?
Yes.
Ms. McCabe, I'd like you to turn to the page, since you've reviewed this, turn to the page of that document where you ever said in your testimony that my client said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
Was I asked what she said?
I get to ask the questions.
Well, I'd like you to direct me where to look.
I want you to look at the entire grand jury testimony if you need to, and turn to the page where you ever said that my client said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
I'm not sure if it's in this document, but I can tell you today with 100% clarity, she said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him on that morning.
So it's not in that document, is it?
I'm not sure if I could take the time, and do you want me to read over 200 pages?
May I approach?
Yes.
No, I don't want to take the time. Because you just indicated that you reviewed this document in anticipation of your testimony, right?
Correct.
So you've gone over it recently.
A few weeks back.
So we don't need to read it. You know that you never testified to that in the grand jury in April of 2022, don't you?
I don't know that as a fact. I would have to reread 222 pages or however long it is.
You think you might have missed it when you reviewed your testimony in anticipation for, I'm sorry, when you reviewed your transcript in anticipation for your testimony?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
I read it a few weeks ago,
It's probably the most powerful part of your testimony, ma'am.
and I will never forget it.
Objection.
Okay, so that's stricken.
Would you agree? Do you
Oh.
think that's a powerful part of your testimony?
Have you ever had an argument with someone where you're really furious with them about something, and then they are so manipulative that you realize 5 minutes later you're having an argument about something else entirely?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is what she's doing there. She is not making this about what her testimony is. She's almost acting like you're impertinent, asking me to read 200 pages worth of document when actually she has made that the argument, because she does not want to say what I'm pretty damn sure she knows, which is, I didn't say it in these testimonies. And it's that's manipulative, the way she has done that and moved that and changed the terms of reference. I always say, when you analyze a conversation, look at where it started, what was the point you were talking about, and look at where it finished and who directed it to that point. A really good, truthful, constructive conversation will start and finish almost in the same place. And yet she has managed, even though she's got, I think Alan Jackson is a great questioner, sort of not prosecutor, interrogator, very theatrical. She has managed to take him well off course that he has to course correct and come back to it.
And that, when we were live, and I made a clip with this too, that to me, when she's like, I could tell you, that was like Bill Clinton. I did not have sexual relations. Like and she turns to the jury again, like to your point, Jack, she's getting across her point. She's not trying to like answer truthfully or help. She wants to get her point across to whoever, to her audience, which is the jury, get her narrative. And it's funny because she's always like, well, it's your narrative that you're trying to get out. And it seems like she's trying to get a
And on top of that, she stumbles on her word. Like, she's looking for the word certainty, and she ends up landing on clarity.
Oh, good point, Bob. That's a good. Go ahead.
Yeah. And why was that? Why did that word just not pop into your head? Look, we all misspeak. We all are sitting there talking and can't find a word. But
Yep.
Very interesting that she just couldn't say very simply, I remember it.
Right.
Without having to put all these qualifiers around it being 100% clear.
Right.
You don't think something's either clear or it's not. You don't have to be 100% clear, do you?
Right.
Carry on with this.
Objection.
I'll allow that.
It is, yes.
Objection.
Did you see it in the transcript?
I cannot recall. It's over 200 pages.
May I approach them?
Yes.
These are select pages. Asked when you testified. Isn't it true, Ms. McCabe, that you were asked when you testified no fewer than 12 times what my client said, either at the scene or on the way to the scene?
At the scene, I was asked twice, according to this.
My question is, isn't it true that in April of 2022, you testified no fewer than 12 times, 12 separate statements you gave about what my client's statements were, either at the scene or in the car ride on the leading up to go into the scene? You remember that?
I do.
Okay, so on page 190 of what you're looking at, it should all be highlighted.
It is.
You testified that my client said to you over the phone at 4:53 a.m., she asked the question, did I hit him? You see that?
I do.
Number two, on page 192, talking about when y'all were in the car on the way to the scene, Karen asked the question, could I have hit him? You see that?
Yes.
Page 193, lines 1 through 2. You testified that in the car, once again, she asked the question, could she have hit him? You were relaying that, meaning could I have hit him, correct?
Correct.
Page 193, line 23. In John's driveway, she asked the question, quote, and she's asking if she could have hit him.
Yes.
Page 201, driving to Fairview. She asked the question, what if I hit him? And could I have hit him? Correct?
Correct.
Page 202, lines 1 through 2. While driving to Fairview, she asked the question, could I have hit him?
Correct.
Page 208, lines 24 through 25, outside at Fairview, she asked the question, did I hit him? And went on to ask, could I have hit him? Correct?
Correct.
And your testimony was also on page 208 that Karen was yelling nonstop in front of the female EMT. Did I hit him? Could I have hit him? Is he dead? Correct?
Correct.
May I approach?
Yes.
That's 12 times that you reiterated under oath, under penalty of perjury in April of 2022, what my client's statements were either at the scene or leading up to getting to the scene, correct?
Correct.
Every single one of those, 12 separate times, you indicated that she asked a question, something like, could I have hit him or did I hit him, correct?
Correct.
Not one time in that testimony did you say she declared, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. Did you?
The questions that were asked, when she said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, that was at the scene in response to an officer asking questions. What I just read was us when she first called me, or when we were driving in the car, or when we were at John's house. So I was answering the question that I was asked.
Stop there.
So you,
Pretty damn long answer to a yes or no question, or
Long answer.
and turns to the jury again. Go ahead, Jen.
Did you spot it?
Did she change the tense? Did I miss the tense?
No. I asked you to remember something from her
Oh,
direct.
about the EMT and the police officer?
Yeah, one EMT asked you, his name, his age, things like that. If she knew what happened, Miss Reed stated that she hit him. Then one of the police officers took her away. So one EMT asked. Here, this was at the scene in response to an officer asking questions.
Right.
So up to you guys what you think. But for me, when the recall is not that clear, and she was really clear on direct that it was an EMT and a paramedic, and she differentiated that from the police officer that took her away, then I'm going, did this happen? Does she really remember this happened?
And interestingly, when you're reading through, or when Jackson's reading through her grand jury testimony, she states in that testimony that happened, the did I hit him happened in front of an EMT. And when you look back again, and I know that you haven't watched all the trial and watched all the witnesses, but it was, I think it was McLaughlin was the EMT that was there, who stated that she had heard Karen say, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. She was the first, and she also said it 3 times. I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. Like those 2 witnesses both definitively state, I hit him, I hit him, and I hit him 3 times. And it's her with the EMT. This is the first time that we hear her ever mention that it was directly in response to a questioning from law enforcement. So yeah.
And just putting a scenario out there, I wasn't there. I don't know what happened. But I did catch the EMT, the female EMT saying, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. One of the other male EMT guys was asked, what did you hear? And he, in his testimony, said, we heard, so plural, we heard, then stopped. And then said, I personally heard, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. So I wonder if there is some truth that this EMT person did hear or think she heard, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. And others have decided that they want to back up that story for whatever reason, which would explain why Jen doesn't quite have the authenticity in telling of the story. Remember that I said the first time she wasn't very clear on it? She was running around saying I hit him, at the same time stating it to the EMT person. I'm not 100%, and this is a large part of where the case lies. I'm not 100% that Jen experienced Karen Reid saying that morning, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. She might believe that Karen said that or would have said that, but I don't think she experienced it.
And Jack, I wanted to ask you, in terms of weight. Now, we've seen Karen and her response to finding John that morning. We've seen the dash cam video. We've seen her running around seemingly frantic, just saying from everything that could possibly be running through her MS-addled mind at the time, from every variation, talking about, do you have an idea? Well, yeah, she has a bunch of ideas, and she's puking them all out in succession, running around. Why, other than convenience for the state's case in chief, why is everyone giving more weight to if she did in fact say I hit him, when she's saying every variation of what could have possibly have happened if it involved Karen Reid? You know what I mean? It's like they've landed on the thing that's most convenient for the state's case and have chosen not to give any weight to anything else that everyone else says that she was saying as well.
Yes, it is. There are so many repetitions amongst the witnesses that I've seen so far. You mentioned franticness. Now, I did see some of the dash cameras, but also just about every person who was there that morning wants to say how hysterical Karen was. Now, she may well have been. They all use the word hysterical, though.
Yeah.
Now, you used frantic, right? Now, frantic is let's look at the differences of the words. And this is the words you choose to use reveal a lot, right? So you said frantic. What's frantic? Frantic to me is concerned, caring, but very, hyperactive. You're frantic. You're wanting to get something done, aren't you? You're frantically wanting to get something done.
Right.
They all use hysterical, which is waving your arms around in the air, making lots of noise and being of no use to anyone. I might have used, she was very upset, as in, at happenings, she found the body and she was, really upset. But they have all, for whatever reason, or almost all, settled on the word hysterical to describe Karen. And I think hysterical as well gets a certain meaning when you apply it to a woman.
Exactly. That's exactly what
hysterical woman.
I've always thought it, like I've come to the conclusion that hysterical is a very misogynistic word, because in the old timey days, that was always how they would describe women in terms of if they were upset about something. Oh, she was hysterical. You can't trust anything. She's crazy. She's a witch. Whatever the case may be, like I have a very negative connotation of the use of the word hysterical, especially when it's coming from a woman describing another woman.
Yeah, and when did you last hear a man described as hysterical? I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I really can't think in any context when I last heard someone say he was hysterical, unless it meant really funny.
Right, exactly.
Good point. Excellent
Exactly.
point.
Exactly.
Keep going here, Jack. Or
Yeah, keep going with this one. Yeah.
Believe that you weren't asked the question, did she say to an officer, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him? And if you're not asked the question, did she say to an officer, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him? You're not going to volunteer that she said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. That's your testimony.
No, that's not. My testimony is our officer was asking her what his name was and different things about him. And at that point, she was saying, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
Which officer?
I do not recall.
Well, you recall the I hit him. You just told me that was the most impactful thing in the morning.
It was shocking.
So what officer did she say this to, supposedly?
I was more focused on her and her hysteria than which officer was asking the question.
So you have no idea who the officer was even, correct?
I'm not sure which officer was asking her. It could have been an EMT. Someone said, what is his name? Does he have medical conditions? How old is he?
But you were asked that question, ma'am. On page 208, you were asked what she said in front of the female EMT who was asking her questions. And her answer was, your answer was, she said, did I hit him? Could I have hit him? Is he dead?
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
That is correct.
That's not a good time to offer up that she confirmed.
Wow. More of the same. She is hell-bent on this being an officer until she all of a sudden, I don't know what it is, but realizes I said EMT earlier or whatever it is, and then goes, oh, it could have been an EMT. And he repeats the grand jury testimony. You were asked what you said in front of the EMT, the female EMT who was asking questions, and your answer was, you said, did I hit him? Could I hit him? Is he dead? Which matches precisely what she said when she was on direct, apart from she had, I hit him at the front. She said he was running around. She was running around saying, I hit him. And then she said, and other things like, did I hit him? Could I hit him? Is he dead? That rule of three comes up again. But this is almost inconsistently consistent. Everything around this, did I hit him, is not quite there. And when she's really interestingly, when she's pressed on that point that she hasn't given this testimony in the grand jury, she says, in the quietest possible terms of agreement, that she can't not agree with something that is there in front of her face, but she gives it the smallest amount ever.
Yep.
Confessed, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, right?
Objection.
Sustained as to that form.
Ms. McCabe, the truth of the matter is you've manufactured this new story for this jury because you think it helps you out.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's all from that part. I thought I'd leave that one on there for Bob.
Thanks, Jack.
I just, to go to my point, Bob, that this absolutely not comes out in this trial when it's the most important points and questions. Miss McCabe, the truth of the matter is that you've manufactured this story and this because you think it helps you out. And she says, absolutely not. Really, really important point that I think actually has some truth in it, having looked at how she handles that story and tells two different versions of it 2 days apart with really, really distinct differences. It's not a misspeak. She's really solid that it's an EMT and a paramedic on the first time, and she's really solid that it's an officer the second time. So yeah, I don't think she heard I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Now the next one. All right. So we're on to some questions about deleted calls here, folks. So this is the next topic, and this has just been amazing, Jack. I raise your hand in the chat if you've had some moments you're like, oh shit, that this was a moment where like I didn't think about this, and I bet you guys are probably gonna watch this again. Please,
what about on screen? Can I raise my hand?
Yes, you could raise your hand, and please make sure to subscribe to Jack and check him out on Twitter. All the links our mods are sharing them. They're in the description. Here we go.
And I saw Dan ask if Jack has done the Karen Reed interview Dateline, and he has. So if you
Yes,
go
on
to
his
his
channel.
channel, you can go check that out, and you're going to get more of the same, except without Jay and I interrupting him.
Yeah, exactly. All right, here you go.
Okay, that appears to be the end of the tape.
Okay.
Okay. You called your sister at 6:07 and 42 seconds, correct?
I don't have my phone record in front of me,
Does that sound about right?
approximately.
And you made a second phone call at 6:08 and 17 seconds. Does that sound about right?
I did call her twice, yes.
And both of those calls show in your extraction that they were answered phone calls, right?
I don't have my extraction in front of me.
Well, you've been asked this question a bunch of times, right? You were asked this question at the other proceeding, is that right?
Yes.
And you
And
were shown phone records.
if you have them, I could see them here.
You were shown phone records then.
Yes.
And at that time, you were confronted with the fact that the phone records show a 7-second call for 6:07. Right?
Objection.
I'm going to strike the word confronted. Go ahead and ask.
I'll pick another
Go
word.
ahead and
You
ask the
were-
question.
You were shown evidence that the 6:07 call lasted 7 seconds.
My sister never answered the phone.
Okay. I know you want to answer your own questions.
Yeah.
I'd like it if you'd answer my question. Were you shown records that showed the call lasted 7 seconds?
I cannot recall the exact record I was shown, but I was shown a phone record.
Okay. And you were shown the same phone record showed that the 6:08 call lasted 8 seconds, right?
Again, I don't have it in front of me.
Does that sound about right?
About right. And there were a number of other calls that showed answered that weren't answered.
Well, we'll get to those in a minute. So the two calls at 6:07 and 6:08, at least the records indicate about 15 seconds worth of open line time, talk time. 7 seconds, 8 seconds, right?
You have the record in front of you. I don't.
I'm just asking if you were confronted, there's that word again, if you were shown records that established that based on your own phone extraction, your phone records, that the 6:07 call, 7-second call, 6:08 call was an 8-second call, right?
I was shown records, but I don't know exactly what they were, how long the call said, because she never answered the phone regardless.
You also made another phone call at 6:23, did you not? To Brian Albert?
If you could share my phone record, it would be very helpful.
Do you recall it?
I know I called my sister and I called my brother-in-law in the house. I do not know the exact times.
That's all I'm asking. You made a phone call to Brian Albert as well, right?
I believe so.
That was around 6:23. It was a few minutes after you had called Nicole twice, right?
Correct.
And that call was not answered.
None of them were answered.
But the record showed that call was not answered, as opposed to Nicole's two calls, right?
Right.
Okay. The calls to Nicole were deleted from your phone before you turned that phone into law enforcement, weren't they?
Not by me.
By somebody else?
I never deleted any calls when I willingly handed my phone over.
You claim that you didn't delete calls, but you do know that your phone was forensically analyzed and those calls were in the deleted file folder, correct?
I have seen that, but there were 20 calls all in a group that were all deleted. So cherry picking a few makes it look a different way.
Okay, so we'll get
Stop.
to those.
It's amazing her recall of reports, some reports that work in her favor and other ones that don't work in her favor, isn't it?
Super
Yeah.
convenient.
Yeah.
Convenient.
I often say the truth leaks out, that when I was talking about those two modes that we talk in, the mode when our subconscious is just doing the talking for us, or when we're really carefully picking our words. When Jackson says to her, I know you want to answer your own questions, she goes, yeah. It's an actual admission of, yes, I do. The truth came out right there. It was brilliant. It was, fair play to her if that's what she wants to do, and she's being truthful about it. Great. She's asked about deleting those calls. She says, not by me. She's asked by somebody else, and she doesn't answer that question. which I don't know would have been a fair question. She said, I never deleted any calls. Never one of the 8 words liars used. Like, absolutely, it pops up often in Deception. If you want to study Lance Armstrong lying to the world for years about not taking performance-enhancing drugs, he uses the word never a hell of a lot. I've never taken drugs. Well, yeah, you did. So just because someone says never doesn't mean they're lying, but it comes up a lot. And she says, I never deleted any calls. Actually, I know there's context to it, but if you take everything out of context to it, what does I never deleted any calls mean? Well, ever in your life, you've never deleted calls ever? Well, that's what actually I never deleted any calls means classically with the full definition. Also, what's your definition of call? Do you know what I mean? You know, like, so a call actually happens, so you're deleting the call log or the record of the call on your phone. That's all a bit, you know, it's just all a bit vague there. And then she has to tell us not that she handed her phone over, but she willingly handed her phone over. So look what a nice person I am. I willingly handed my phone over after I deleted some things from it.
I'm so cooperative.
Yeah.
I'm so very cooperative.
Then she says, you claimed you didn't delete calls, but you do know your phone was forensically analyzed and those calls were deleted in the deleted files folder. And she says, I have seen that, but there were 20 calls all in a group that were all deleted. That's a factual statement. Those 20 calls that were all deleted. Mrs. Queen of Qualifiers does not qualify that. She doesn't say that were allegedly deleted or that the report says was deleted or someone claims these things are deleted. She actually uses the phrase that were all deleted. So there's no apparently, allegedly, or anything like that there. She's stating as a fact those calls were deleted. She doesn't say by me or anything like that, but she knows those calls were deleted. Apart from trying to claim all sorts of innocence and not knowing what's in the reports, she actually uses the phrase, they were all deleted.
100%. Microdots, thanks for coming in. Good to see you. No, in all my years of trying cases, I've never seen any witness, let alone multiple witnesses, refute forensic evidence in terms of reports that are unequivocal in terms of what was done with the phone. I've never seen them deny it like this. It's otherworldly. It really is.
Jack, keep going with this one, or
yeah, keep going with this one. There's a lot more.
Yeah, there's.
I'm not cherry picking anything. Okay, asking you questions about the records,
which I would love a copy of if I could see.
We'll get to that in a second. Just going by your memory, you've seen these records a bunch of times. You've been questioned about these records a bunch of times, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we know that you called at 6:07, 6:08, or thereabouts, and about 6:23. 2 to Nicole, 1 to Brian, correct?
Correct.
And you'll agree with me that notwithstanding those phone calls, by the way, did you leave voicemails?
No.
When did you hang up? Before it went to voicemail, or was it into voicemail before you hung up?
So it was a bit of a hysterical scene that morning, and I was in a state of shock, and I was just calling my sister and my brother-in-law. They did not answer the phone. I cannot tell you when I hung up because it was a hysterical scene. I was in a state of shock. Everyone was running around, and what seems to be forgotten is that my friend was lying there on the ground.
Oh, I don't think anybody's forgotten that.
I'm going to zone in on that last question. So the question Jackson asks is, when did you hang up? Before they went to voicemail, or was it into voicemail before you hung up? And our answer is, so it was a bit of a hysterical scene that morning, and I was in a state of shock, and I was just calling my sister and my brother-in-law. They did not answer the phone. I cannot tell you when I hung up because it was a hysterical scene. I was in a state of shock. Everyone was running around, and what seems to be forgotten is that my friend was lying there on the ground. I talked about the distance from the question to the end of the answer. The question is, when did you hang up? And we end up with
It's quite
John
a
O'Keefe-
distance, Jack.
John O'Keefe's body on the ground. So she is trying to get the journey as far away from this very sensitive question. And she does this on what I consider, because I'm not a lawyer, I don't think like them. And I go, oh, that's a good question. And that's when she goes walking off in this distance. She also starts out with the word so. So when did you hang up? Before it went to voicemail, or was it into voicemail before you hang up? And she went, so. And that means there's an explanation coming, not an answer. And she constructs this. She says it was a bit of a hysterical scene, got nothing to do, with the question that was asked. I was in a state of shock, got nothing to do with the question that was asked. I cannot tell you when I hung up. Oh, that's the question that was asked, and that's the answer you should have given. I can't tell you when I hung up. It was a state of confusion that morning. I don't know. But she wants to create, and I think this is one of her priorities. Bob, we spoke about this hysterical scene that's taking place, all this confusion that's popping off left, right, and center, with Karen at the center of it. She also says, I was just calling my sister and my brother-in-law, just one of the 8 words liars use. So we're on 3 so far, and just the bits of testimony that we've looked at so far.
Wow. Bob, did you want to?
Yeah, this question, thank you for that $10 how. Crime Sleuth and asked, Jen testified when they got to John's, she, Karen, and Carrie met at the back of Karen's SUV, and Karen pointed out the broken taillight. The ring cam proved that was a big lie. Why didn't the defense highlight that? I have a couple of theories. One goes directly to the interview that Jack has parsed on Dateline, wherein she basically admits that took place at some point. Now, clearly, it didn't take place at the time that Jenn McCabe testified that it took place, but it apparently took place at some point. So I think that is probably the primary reason that the defense didn't delve into that, if I had to guess.
You, in fact, did not leave voicemails for any of those 3 calls, did you?
Again, I don't have my phone record in front of me.
That's because Nicole didn't get any voicemails. The calls were answered, right?
The calls were not answered.
You do agree with me that Brian Albert being a police officer, never came out of the house, right?
Correct. Neither did any neighbor.
Stop. I don't want to hit on Jen McCabe, but I have several times. She told us she did not know when she hung up the calls, because remember that scene of Bedlam that she painted, the hysteria, the state of shock that she was in, the hysterical scene. I was in a state of shock. Everyone was running around. What seems to be forgotten was my friend was on the ground. So I don't know when I hung up, whether they'd gone to voicemail or not. And yet she knows that neighbors did not come out of the house. She states that very factually. And she states very factually that the calls were not answered. To me, the 2 things can be true, but it seems very unlikely that she doesn't know whether when she hung up these phone calls because of all this craziness, or she knows that neighbors didn't come out. She knows that the calls were not answered. She's trying to paint this picture of bedlam when it helps her. But when it doesn't, then that all fades away, and it's very straightforward. Yeah, they didn't come out of the house, and neither did neighbors. No, the calls were not answered. I don't know if they were answered or not. It was bedlam. There was hysterical people running all around and lots of noise.
Wow.
Very selective memory. Very selective memory.
Yeah.
That's good.
I know you'd like to continue editorializing after the fact. Probably a time and a place for it. This isn't it. If you can answer my question, I'd ask that you do that. Did Brian Albert come out of the house?
No.
Did Nicole Albert come out of the house?
No.
Thank you.
That's it from that part. Do you just see the difference in her when it is factual? No. That's all that's needed. And so many other times she's spinning so many plates around. And I think sometimes she spins so many plates that she loses track of some of them.
Wow. All right. So looks like we have some more about the calls here. So let's go to 318. Ellen, thank you so much for the PayPal. And also, happy birthday to Carly Rooks.
I just asked,
Carly Rooks,
to make sure
happy
the record is clear. Did you delete any of your calls before you turned your phone into law enforcement?
I spoke with the two officers that I handed my phone over to, and I asked if I could delete the personal conversations with my daughters. And they said absolutely yes, that I could.
So other than calls with your daughters that you deleted, did you delete any other calls on your phone at all?
There were text messages. It was actually text messages with my daughters that I deleted, and that was all I deleted.
Did you delete any phone calls?
I do not recall deleting any phone calls at all. I would have no reason to delete anything.
So that's
all
very
right.
different.
Here, I'm going to try to be the student, Jack. First
Go
of
on,
all,
go on.
First of all, no, yes or no. It's a yes or no question. Did you delete them or not? And then I do not recall. I do not recall. Do you not recall? God, sorry.
That's all right. You got most of what I was going to say. She doesn't answer the question. Kenya just has to make the record clear. Did you delete any of your calls before you turned in your phone? I spoke with 2 law enforcement officers. That's not yes or no at all. But she spoke with those law enforcement officers and she asked if she could delete the personal conversations with my daughters. And they said, absolutely, yes, I could. The word absolutely is in there, Bob. Other than the calls, did you delete anything on your phone at all? It was text messages that with my daughters that I deleted. That's all I deleted. And then he said, did you delete any phone calls? Jay, yeah, I do not recall deleting any phone calls at all. Leaves huge room for any number of possibilities to be true in that. You know, that's one of the reasons that socially we don't want to lie, because lying's bad, especially lying in a trial. You know, that could get you in all sorts of stuff. But what we do like to be able to do is go, oh no, I didn't say that. I didn't say I didn't delete any calls. I said I don't recall deleting any calls. And really, she's just left a whole world open there.
Including that she did delete the calls.
Well,
she just doesn't recollect it.
She lies in this answer because she says, I do not recall deleting any calls at all. I would have no reason to delete anything. And yet 2 answers previously, she told us she wanted to delete her daughter's conversations. So she's not being honest.
Nice catch.
She's using these grand phrases, almost the cliches. I would have no reason to delete anything. I mean, anything is not calls. You know, she's just, I wouldn't delete anything. And she told us 2 questions ago that she would have had a reason to delete something. So when she says, I would have no reason to delete anything, it is not true. I don't know what the truth is. I don't know why she would want to delete calls. I don't know if she deleted calls. What I do know is that she lied in that answer because she did, and she told us she had a reason to delete something. And if she had no reason to delete anything, and that is true, then the first part was wrong, that she wanted to delete her daughter's conversations. Maybe that's what happened. Oh, could I delete some stuff before I hand the phone over? It's just my daughter's conversations. There's the phone.
Yeah, see, that's the problem with being the lady that doth protest too much. You know, she's created these own traps for herself to where when you're parsing it like that, she's now tripped herself up with a lie within the same vein of questioning. You know, so it's hard to keep track of your lies.
Lying is incredibly difficult to do, and to keep it up. My mum would always say, you know, be sure your lies will find you out. And she was right. Not because I had some super wise people around me, but because lying is bloody hard work.
It is. It's very, very hard.
I just got to shout out KTG just sent me a Cash App, and Jen Del Rio just sent a $5 house. So I would say, what do you predict with respect to future charges for the Alberts McCabe's? I mean, I think we have to. I know there's still an active investigation, right, Bob? So we probably have to wait.
Yeah, that's putting the cart way before
Yeah.
the horse. Let's get through this trial first and see where we end up, and then because I can tell you one thing: if Karen's convicted of anything, zero. There will be zero charges against the Albertson.
Jay, can I suggest we do the next question and answer, and then I can smell my dinner cooking
Oh, absolutely,
downstairs.
Jack.
So I better go and get a big plate full of that. But the next one is Wolf.
All right, here we go.
Then I didn't delete any phone calls. I do not remember deleting phone calls. Means you might have.
In day-to-day life, people delete things, but I do not recall deleting any phone calls.
In day-to-day life, did you delete?
And day-to-day. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think you've got it, Jay. You go for it.
I mean, I know people do delete calls, but I don't recall if I did. I mean, so you're saying people delete calls. You deleted the calls. Come on.
Yeah, she's asked the question about her personal conduct, about what she did herself. And she goes, this is what people do. In general, people delete things. I think people might be another one of the words that liars use, by the way. Yes, it is. So she's used quite a lot of those in this interview, which I'd only spotted two when we started doing this. And this is what I mean. I keep doing things up. The use of people is social proof. So it's kind of, hey, everyone does this. So if I did do it, I'd just be doing what everyone did anyway. I just can't recall doing it.
And it definitely, it distances her. It serves both purposes. It pulls her away from it and it generalizes it. We all do that. Like who doesn't delete phone calls? We all do that. However, I don't recall deleting any phone calls. Yeah.
Exactly that. Exactly that.
Well, I'll tell you guys this. This is Jack. This has been absolutely amazing, and I have a couple of prompts of Carrie interview, eavesdrop, butt dials, visit with Miss Proctor, and house long search that we have not got into yet. Tuesday and Friday they're off next week. Let us know in the chat or in the comments when this is over if you want us to do a part 2. I'm going to assume the answer is yes, just based on how the chat has been flying and how great this has been. But Jack, we can't seriously thank you enough for coming
Jack, you're
on.
phenomenal. Thank you so much for spending so much time, because you gave us a glimpse of how much time this took you to do, and you did it out of the kindness of your own heart. We are incredibly appreciative because it's fascinating. I love it. It's such a fascinating peek behind the curtains of somebody's mind when they're on the stand, and it's unbelievable. It's great content, man.
Oh, listen, it's a pleasure, and it's good to help you guys out as well. I feel like I'm giving something back for sitting at sort of afternoon our time when you come on with the trial coverage, and if I can have it on as I'm working, then it's always great to do. So it's great to give something back.
We appreciate it, man.
Well, guys, please give him a sub. Jack, you go eat dinner. Me and Bob will close this thing out. You go have your dinner. Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it, Jack. And please, guys, on the replay crower, if you're here, sub to his channel.
Sub to his channel. It's
so good. Oh, he does. I mean, talk about just Scott Peterson, Ryan Garcia. You did recently. What else? Tell the folks what other.
Stephen Avery. You got like Karen Reed. All of them. All the stuff you want to see him grilling.
That mad pastor John Paul
Miller.
He was on recently as well. And P. Diddy was one of my favorites. It was 90 seconds of "You're not sorry at all, mate. You're sorry you got caught."
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Jack. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And a scholar. We appreciate you more than you know, man. Thank you so much for being here. Hey, and we're checking. Jay and I always check when we ask you guys to sub. We are going to go check the numbers. So we're watching. Do the right thing. Go sub our boy.
Enjoy your dinner, Jack.
Thank you.
Thanks,
take care. All right, Bob. So we should probably talk about what we're going to do tomorrow. We did a poll for who they want people to rewatch, and the clear winner was Brian Albert, and I think in second was Matthew McCabe. So what we're going to do is I'm going to create an unlisted link, and we're going to send it to our patrons and our paid subscribers, because we appreciate everyone, but we really appreciate you guys, and we want to do something special for you guys. So after I get off, we're going to set up a stream where all our patrons and all our paid members, for me, Super Bows and higher, and Bob, he'll pick his levels, and we'll set up a stream for you guys to watch us watch Brian Albert and Matt McCabe, and we'll just kind of, it'll be kind of casual because it's not like a live trial. So me and Bob could just pause it if you want. If you have questions for Bob about legal, analysis, we can do that and just kind of just shoot the shit and just kind of have something because we know there's not.
Yeah, and like Allie and I are very neglectful of our members and our patrons, so we definitely wanted to do this to where it was something that those folks that are so kind to constantly support us are getting some added benefits. So I've got to do, Jay, you and I, and figure out our timing and let us know. I've got to do a thing probably for 45 minutes at 1 p.m. my time. Or we got to do this weekly thing that I do.
So that means
so we either go early or we go late afternoon. I'll leave it up to you and the people, really.
Yeah, we'll figure. Yeah, it doesn't matter to me. I don't care either way. So whatever.
I don't either. Like we could do it early. Why don't you all let us know on our community pages or in Patreon which we'd want the highest volume of you to be able to be there. So if you guys let us know, we get a good sense of whether we should do it morning or afternoon, and we'll act accordingly.
Yes, and thank you all. We had a huge show out today, but over 1,000 combined. And again, kind of did a dual thing here just to remind you guys, for folks who didn't know, we're streaming this trial on both our channels. So please, if you're not sub to me, on Bob, sub to me, and if you're not sub to Bob from me, sub to Bob, and
vice versa.
So,
we love you guys. Thank you so
yes.
much for hanging on a wonderful Wednesday afternoon. I can't think of a better way to spend a day.
Absolutely, it was a great time. Well, aren't you doing something a little bit later? That's going to make the
well, that's baby hugging. So yeah, that's a whole different thing.
You're going to finish it out, yeah.
That's a great way to end the night. So thank you guys. We adore you.
Yes.
And we'll see you on the flip side.
See you guys.